Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the interview series where I interview like various collectors, and sometimes I actually get to interview people that are creating comics, and that's extra special for me because I actually really enjoy the idea of creating my own comic, and to meet people that are actually doing it is pretty cool. They're living the dream, and I'm joined with Richard Perry, who is the creator of Robustatrons. And hopefully I said that right. We'll find out. I'll bring him in right now and we'll find out. Did I say it correctly?
Oh yes, you did indeed. Yeah, the Robustatrons. Yeah.
Robustatrons. So it's cool. Actually, I read the first bit of it. I didn't get to read the whole thing because I'm cheap. But it seemed like a pretty cool story. It's a futuristic story. But before we get into your comic, I'd like to actually know your origin story. How did you get into comics in general? And then did you collect comics as a kid? What was your background? What's your story here?
Do you know, I always feel as if I came in it too late, which I'm really annoyed about, to be honest. My background is film and TV, so I love film,
Oh, okay.
television, and I grew up in that, working in that world and being in that world, but it was always the storyteller in me that drove me to be in that world. My passion growing up was actually Buffy and Angel, the TV show.
Oh, really?
And it was just it from a writing point of view, it doesn't really matter whether it's prose, graphic novels, TV, film. It's some of the best writing out there, just in terms of arcs and story and lineages, threads and all that kind of stuff. It's anyway. So I was a huge fan of the show, and then when that came off air, I just carried on, obviously, working in film, TV, and stuff like that. And at the same time, I think I downloaded a digital copy of the Court of Owls, the Batman New 52.
Okay. Yeah, I know
And I
that
must have been mid to late 20s, something like that. I would have thought. I can't actually remember. So that's why I say I got into it a bit too late.
Yeah, most people are like, I got when I was a kid, I got comics from my parents and stuff like that. But
yeah, exactly.
you're very late at getting.
Yeah, very exactly. And I have no idea what. I tried to think back to sort of like when I was younger, and I don't think I was just around it a lot, if that makes sense. There was never that guy at school that had a comic book that you go, oh, what's that? It was just weird. So because of all that, and then I read The Court of Owls, and then Buffy season 8 came out in graphic novel form, and then I started reading those just to carry on with the story.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of like, this is an incredible art form. So it was not exactly the same, but because of my sort of original passion for film, you can completely see the same thing translated in graphic novels, because it's a very visual medium. It's a very visual format, and so my love for it there just grew and grew and grew. And so I had to just get as many graphic novels as possible. I had to, read all the classics, and I sort of like make it a point now where I have to read the novels before watching any of the translated TV shows.
Okay.
Because everyone knows that even with prose, the books are usually always better than the TV shows.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, that's where it started. So yeah, I mean, I very, very late, which unfortunately for me, I'm a bit of ashamed to admit it, to be honest. But
no, it's fine. It's fine. It's like, it's better late than never, right? So
yeah.
So what do you find yourself reading nowadays? Is it the Buffy stuff, or is it other graphic novels, or what is it?
No, so it's a lot more different now. So I love the long series like 100 Bullets and Why the Last Man.
I liked Why the Last Man. That was good. I read that one. I like Brian K. Vaughan.
It's like what I did want to show as well. Like, one thing that I also loved was, one thing I'm reading at the moment is this book here.
Yeah, let me make you big. What? I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
Do you know, it's this, just like, this is when I suddenly realized it's sort of like this type of artwork here.
Okay.
So it's very From Hell like in terms of the art style, but it made me realize that, you know, graphic novels don't have to be superheroes or fantasy or
No.
sci-fi. This is a very sweet, sort of intimate story about a girl and her father, and it was just kind of just very touching.
Okay.
So I was reading that, and then one of my all-time favorites is this one.
Oh, The Killing Joke. Oh
Just
no,
joke.
The Joker. Oh, okay.
I love Killing Joke by Alan Moore, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this one, the reason being is they took, you know, a side character and just did a whole story based on him. And
Yeah.
in the world, in the universe of obviously Batman and etc. etc. But it was just so like off what you expected. I loved it. So I reread that on occasion just because I love these books where they kind of allow you to explore off canon stuff, you know, different
Hmm.
stories, different characters, and just world building, and not to the extent of like a Star Wars universe,
Yeah.
because you know that's taken what since early no late
70s, late
70s or something.
70s, late 70s, yeah,
Yeah,
1977 too.
so it's like what 45 years or something of
Yeah,
stories.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you know, I love those kind of one shots as well, like because they're just cool, like intimate stuff.
Hmm.
um, so that's what I'm kind of reading at the moment. I'm like on this sweet little drama, plus I'm still making my way through Sandman, which is a long old journey.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think I got through the first maybe 10 to 15 issues. That was it. And then I just sort of like, oh, I got distracted with something else. And yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean the Joker, and then that's Fun Home, I think it's called, is the other one.
Fun Home, yeah,
Yeah.
completely
Seems
different.
like a
Yeah,
very very polar opposites actually. Um
yeah,
yeah.
completely different. But that's what I think the reason why I love graphic novels so much is actually because
Mhm.
you have that flexibility to do whatever you want. And you know, I think because obviously the film and TV in me, it's like everything's all about genre, like everything's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
about structure, everything's all about this is what they want. Actually, it's not. Well, but the thing is, with graphic novels, but the possibilities are endless. I love it, absolutely
Well,
love it.
the thing I think that's partly why manga is so popular, because you can have like, very niched interests being
Yeah,
addressed, like, and people will kind of, oh, I like this because it's about something I'm interested in, or this. And the same seems to, apply to the graphic novel. It's basically the American form of manga, right?
mm.
Um, what was I going to say? Did you read Paper Girls?
No, but I need to read it,
That's
and
it.
obviously
That's actually quite good.
before I watch it.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed by the I think was it Netflix or Amazon, one of the two that did it, and yeah, and it was just okay, not quite, quite there, but it was
Yeah.
not bad. I mean, it's just yeah, but that's another one. If you like, if you like Why the Last Man, you'll like that one as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
Because I know
Same like
because even with Why the Last Man, like the show didn't get picked up for a second season. I don't know whether I don't
no,
know why, but anyway.
I think it got kind of I think people misunderstood it. And so the problem with Brian K. Vaughan is he is a bit wokey, right? He's like a bit social justicey. But that maybe is like 10% of the story. You know what I mean? Like it's there. You can definitely see it's there. But the other 90% is actually a good story. You know what I mean? So the problem is like most times when people hear just a hint of that, they run for the hills. They don't want to be, and I think he kind of saw when Why the Last Man came out, and it's like, oh, all the men are dead. They kind of promoted the woke elements rather than the story elements.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that scared
yeah,
people away from it, and it did poorly as a result. But it
yeah.
is a great story. Actually, I really enjoyed it. I'm very anti woke, but I enjoyed that story. So, um, but yeah, yeah, it is one of those things. What was I gonna say? So how did you get into writing your own book?
So I mean, my problem is if I love something, I just have to do it myself in my own way.
Okay. Okay.
So, like, I can't just go, "Oh, I
So you read a
appreciate that."
comic and you're like, oh, I could do that.
Well, it was more like, yeah, not I can do that, but like I have no idea how to do that, but I want to know how to do that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it's more. I think it's not just the challenge. It was the challenge excited me because it was something that I had no idea how to do, where to start. You know, it was just mind-boggling. And so what happened was I wrote a script for a TV series called Monument, and
Okay.
the story ended up being a lot bigger than I wanted it to be, just naturally, because it did. And then what happened was,
Did
because
that actually get produced? That story? That.
as a TV show, no, but funnily enough, we are looking to do it the other way around. So
Oh, okay.
what happened was, I had these scripts, and I was just like, this was because I was reading a lot of dark noir sci-fi, which is funnily enough this story.
Mhm.
I was just kind of like, oh, that's really cool. Like, especially Court of Owls and the Batman type
Yeah.
world and that
Very
kind
dark.
of,
Yeah.
very dark atmosphere. And I was like, oh, well, I'll turn those scripts into a graphic novel. And so I had to find an illustrator who knew how to convert, like, screenplays into
Images.
novel prose,
Yeah.
because it was like, obviously, a screenplay doesn't have panel breakdowns or anything like that. So
Uh,
um, luckily I met Roy, who had apparently done it before, and we got on like a house on fire, and I sort of gave him the scripts, and he basically sort of changed it into how he was going to draw the panels, how he was going to do the layouts, etc., etc. So I was like, okay, great. So I learned actually a lot off working with Roy, because whilst we were doing that, and that took, excuse me, that was a trilogy of novels. So that literally the third book only got released September, I think it was. But meanwhile, when I was working with Roy on that, I was like, okay, I actually understand this process now, and also I was reading a lot more graphic novels, so I could see the effect of how certain panels or page layouts can
mhm.
play with an audience's emotions, much like of experience with a camera. So a camera can often tell the story in a different way depending on the shot, and it's exactly the
Mhm.
same as the panel, or the layout of the panels, or how many panels you've got on a page. So
Mhm.
all of that was just really interesting to me, because it was a very similar um, way of working, or like, so
I can actually see that you had that in mind when like I only have your your prologue, right? In my that's my limited knowledge of your book. But I could see that cinematography in a way.
yeah, yeah,
Because like you have like the guy kind of coming, you have like different angles and different the guys kind of coming through, you know what I mean? Like through the page. And not through the actual page, but
I
I
know what
mean
you
he's
mean. Yeah,
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 and I can see that kind of cinematography kind of thing where you could say, okay, this is a scene. We're watching this guy coming out of this broken cell that he's in, and I could see that kind of cinematography kind of style of visuals within the graphic novel. I could definitely see that, and
yeah.
it actually is fairly engaging because of that. That you can like kind of translate that to what this would have been like if it was a movie or TV series.
Oh no, thank you. Yeah, no, that's really helpful to know that, actually, because it makes me go, okay, so actually the style in which I'm doing this is actually kind of working, because
Mhm.
you know like with the later on issues and the books and stuff, there's certain things that I've tried to go, right, if I would shoot this, then maybe I'll do this and this and this in terms of the
Mhm.
shots, so you can kind of either look at the audience and go, okay, so I want them to read this really quickly, because then we're going to hit them with this after,
Mhm.
or I want them to sort of like digest this slowly, or just be slow with it and like create an impact on the next page and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I mean, in all honesty, every day is a school day, so I'm still learning and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't, and I
Mhm.
only go obviously by audience feedback. So the fact that you're saying that is great, and some other people with some other pages. You know, there's this one page that I absolutely love where the dialogue works in conjunction with a joke, which is about, you know, there's peril going on whilst one of the characters is joking about something. And it just, I didn't know whether it was going to work or not, because obviously in film you can sort of cut between each character, or you can dictate the pacing, but you can't
Yeah.
dictate the pacing of how someone's going to read something.
Yeah, that's the funny thing with humor, especially. It's all about timing, right? And
Yeah,
well, it's
yeah.
somebody's reading this. There is no timing. You know, there is like it's based on the reader, right?
Exactly, yeah. But what I was really fortunate about was that page that I was not worried about, but like didn't know whether it was going to work or not.
Mhm.
I've sort of like subtly said to some people like, "Oh, like in chapter so and so, what do you think of it?" And they go, "Oh, I really like the way you did that dialogue thing." I was like, "Okay, great." So it worked.
So it
Like,
worked.
that's all I really wanted to know.
Well, one thing that I actually enjoyed, like I'm reading a lot of Golden Age books. Like
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know if you can see behind me
Oh
even.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and Golden Age, sometimes they're very heavy on the dialogue or like text, like, you know, it's like, and sometimes and modern books, in contrast, I find are very heavy on the visual,
Mhm.
very minimalistic on the on the text. Um, and there's good things and bad things about both. You know, I found that yours was much more the modern style, like minimalistic on the text,
Yeah,
but I
yeah, yeah.
liked the layout. The layouts kind of reminded me. I'm not sure if you've read it, but there's the GI Joe, the silent issue.
No, no, I wouldn't
It's
have.
not something you can actually read. It's actually it's a book. It's a comic that is without words,
Oh really?
and it just tells a cool story through the paneling, through the way that. Okay, so yours kind of was to me that bit of that balance where it had that storytelling through the panels themselves.
Well,
I
it's
kind of
like,
like it.
no, no, no. I completely. It's funny. I might have to look that up, because one thing that I always felt about film, and it's something that I feel a bit about graphic novels as well, is that if you can tell a story with the camera, or you can tell a story with just panels and no dialogue,
Mhm.
or at least elicit an emotional response from your audience, not necessarily, you know, reveal the whole master plot or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
If you can tell that story without the need of dialogue, I think that that is a battle won, because
Mhm.
it's it is a visual medium, and that, like, you know, if it's dialogue, 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 what's the point of it being a graphic novel? You might as well be prose.
Yeah.
Um, and funnily enough, Monument, because it was this gritty world, and you've got all of this news reports going on, and it is very dialogue driven, funnily enough. And
Mhm.
I remember reading through it, and I was, you know, reading it, and just like, it takes you not half an hour, but half an hour to turn a page. It's not that long, but you know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's very,
It's much more of a time consuming per page thing. Yeah, I
yeah,
get.
exactly. It's very dense. It's very, like, you know, you got to think a lot, and because it's just very intricate, and it's very like, yeah, basically that. But when I
Mhm.
came to the Rustatrons, I was kind of like, I really wanted this to be a universal read. I wanted it to be for kids, adults, all ages, a very widespread audience, but also just let them enjoy the book and let them enjoy the story, and not have to um, take forever to read it or something, and just enjoy the artwork as well. Because at the end of, as I said, like, it's a visual medium, so the artwork, I feel, needs to be just like impactful, so you kind of want to take a slow read, because you can just digest it, or like look at the different things, or even wonder
Mhm.
about, why have they picked that certain level of costume, why have they,
Yeah.
you know, picked that backdrop, oh, why is it the sky purple, oh, why is it, like, surely there's a
Mhm.
reason. But that kind of immersive experience in reading, as opposed to like 50 million words, you know, it's just, for me personally, I just think that that just engages you more as an audience member than too much dialogue.
Yeah. Also, one other thing I want to comment on, and I think this is a, you know, this is a compliment to you, is that I can really sense, like, we were talking about Star Wars before we started the video, and one of the things with Star Wars is you always feel that there's a greater world.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like there's something bigger than what you're just seeing at this moment. And what from the scenes that I've seen within your thing, you kind of set up that there is something bigger. Like there's time that has passed, first of all, and there is this greater world that is kind of messed up. And there's people that are going to be playing roles in that you can sense that they're there, but you don't know how they're going to interact with each other. And there's this bigger world that I think is going to be interesting to explore, is the way I kind of interpreted it.
Yeah, no, thank you. You're completely correct. It sort of, where it came about was there was lots of discussions with Gareth, who I write the story with. Anyway,
Yeah, can you actually give a brief summary? Like my very vague description was probably going to be like, okay, the audience is like, what the heck is he talking about? Can you give a better description of the like just the synopsis of the story?
So, oh god, I don't know what I wrote down. It's on the website, but
I actually what you wrote on the website was quite good. But we're not
okay.
going to we're going to no cheats. You got to
No,
just go from the top of your head.
I'll do my convention pitch then. So that's all I've got registered in my brain. So basically, after an asteroid hits the Earth in 2030, billions of years later in the future, after ecosystems and evolution has taken place all over again, I kind of looked at it like another dinosaur reset, like it was for us, but in the future. So billions of years later in the future, a new world is set, and it's run by an evil dictator called Neolono. And the first sort of series, the first book, as I call it, like that's called First Light, is the origin story of how a group of freedom fighters come together to overthrow, or look to overthrow, his empire. And so we're sort of introduced to the main characters who will continue on throughout the 6 series.
And it's complete arc, right? It's like 6 books and then that's it, right?
Yeah. So the first book is got a limited edition here, actually. The first book, which is called First Light, is 440 pages, which is all 16 chapters. And this is the hardback copy here. So you can see the artwork, all of that inside there. It's humongous. So there's going to be basically 6 of these.
Wow, that's a big story.
Oh yes. But the way that we have broken it down, just for sort of like people's financial chunks, is we release volumes. So each, basically one of those big books, which is a complete story,
You can get six volumes or something.
It's 4 volumes per series. So if you imagine total, there's going to be 24 of these eventually.
Wow.
And then on top of that, when you talked about world building, we also have anthology stories.
Oh my! So sort of separate stories that are just sort of like sub stories.
Yeah, they're not in graphic. They're more like mini prose stories.
Okay.
So one thing that we just found a little bit interesting was that because, obviously with comics, we wanted the main canon, for that to be graphic novel, but then say, for example, when we just randomly talk about different characters, that seem to randomly pop up in some of the panels, we were just kind of like, oh, wonder what that guy does. Wonder what that guy does. So this is on one of the panels in like one of the in the first chapter. This guy here, I remember looking at him and just thinking, he's such a sad face. Like, I wonder what his problem is. So I ended up just creating a little mini
sub story. Yeah. That's sort of. I was a big fan of the Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
And at the beginning, it was really quite an impressive story. Like, I think the season 1, they knew it was a smash hit, right?
Yeah.
What they did was they had these anthology stories where, for example, I'm not sure if you remember Walking Dead, but there was a scene where he's like, where Rick is kind of like a little bit like a deer in the headlights, kind of lost in this new world of the zombie apocalypse, right?
Oh, it's very early on, isn't it?
Yeah, really early on. And he sees this girl and she's like half a woman, like, she's a zombie and she's like dragging a bicycle behind her. Okay.
Right.
And everyone dubbed that zombie Bicycle Girl. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So they actually created an anthology, like a little anthology series where they explained how she became like in that situation. And it was just cool. It was like, it was like a short little story, but it explained how she got to that point.
But that's really cool, and it's really interesting because it's
Mhm.
also, from where we looked at it,
Mhm.
we knew that we weren't, recreating the wheel or anything. We knew that it's been done.
No, yeah,
Obviously, well, now we know that
but
it's
I
done
think
with Walking Dead,
fans
but
love
like,
that kind of stuff. Is my
but
point.
that's the
Yeah.
thing. We just felt like, yeah, because audiences love it. I mean, we love it as well because we're just
Mhm.
going, I wonder what that guy does, what that guy does, and it just kind of
Mhm.
rewards the core fan base that are really interested in your story or like are really interested in your style of writing or where you're going. That,
Mhm.
it doesn't cost them much, and they just think, oh, it's kind of cool. Like it's a little mini story, and I wouldn't mind knowing what that guy who's selling apples does, or why it's
Yeah,
not.
yeah. And it also adds that it adds credibility to the world that you've created in a way,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
because it's like the characters are just like, a lot of the time I find when they do stories, they just put people in the background, and they're in the background, they're not real, they're like, and they're just as like a facade as much as anything else is. But when you create those stories about them, it makes the whole thing much more real and like something tangible in a way, like.
Well, it is, and it also like obviously you've got know a lot of people who work in film and TV, and a lot of people work with crowd as well. And we all sort of like say similar things. Like when we are say on a set and we work with the crowd individually, and then we see them on screen, we actually, because we get to know them on a personal level,
Mhm.
and we see them on screen, then they don't do anything. But then
Mhm.
we start creating like, well, that person actually does kind of have a story. So why are they even at that party? Like, how did they get to that party?
Mhm.
What were they doing before that party? So we kind of do it in our heads, like on set. And I'm sure like audiences, when they watch TV and everything, if they get bored of the main story, they might start looking at the background. I mean, I do it sometimes. If I get bored of
Yeah.
whatever I'm watching, I start looking at the background.
Yeah.
But you kind of do it naturally anyway, because anything that creates that world, even if it's contemporary and it's realistic, it's still a world. So you're kind of always interested in how these people came to be.
Mhm.
And it was also, I remember when I first started learning to write, I think it was Robert McKee who said this. I really can't remember. It was so long ago. But they used to say like one of the best exercises to do is to, when you're on a train or you're on a bus or anything like that, is just obviously
Mhm.
start looking at these people that are on the bus and just creating their lives.
Stories about everyone there, yeah.
Exactly.
And
So
how they all got to that one same point where they're on a bus with you.
exactly, right. So that is you creating, or like creating characters in your head, creating like definitive characters in your head. So
Mhm.
why not translate that into the actual world that you're building? So
Yeah. I think I like that kind of way of thinking as well. Personally, I feel it's something that is lacking nowadays, especially in cinematography. I find like a lot of movies that come out right now are very superficial, and they don't have that depth. Though there was a movie recently that I saw, and it was funny actually. I forgot what movie it was. It was like I think it was like some like horror comedy kind of thing.
right.
And what they did was they had the story that's happening in the foreground, but then they had a whole different story that was happening in the background. And like so you'd have like scenes going on, and then you'd see like this one like weird thing going on in the back, and it was just sort of they would carry it through, where it's like it was kind of cool, like it had sort of that extra dimension of like storytelling.
That's what I feel that we need more of. Yeah, we just,
Yeah.
those things are cool. Like they're just interesting. They're
Mhm.
yeah. No,
and
I
and
love
and you might not even notice it, like it was like I've seen that
that.
guy
Does
before
happen.
in the previous, and it would sort of carry through, so you actually feel like I think it was like something killer, or totally killer. I think that was the name of the movie,
Totally killer.
and it was making fun of these serial killer movies and slash modern people going back into the 80s and that whole different
Right.
understanding of the world. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to
yeah.
look it up now that you said it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not bad. It's not bad. It's got a you'll see what I mean when you watch it. Yeah.
No, but that kind of world building is just, something that Gareth, who I do the story with, we just
Mhm.
talk about it quite a lot, and we also want to encourage other writers to do some short stories as well for us. You know, and completely, if they want to, we want to engage and reward our audiences, like, who want to be a part of it. And I think that came about purely because when I'm at these conventions, I get asked so many times by people that want to be writers, or they want to be illustrators, or, you know, they want to get into graphic novels, they want to turn something into a graphic novel, like a story, and they have no idea where to start. And, you know, I try to sort of like, I'm not saying that I know everything, because I don't. It's very early for me, but I sort of say what I've done, and they've gone, "Oh, okay, so it is possible," and they kind of resonate with that. And I just thought to myself, well, you know, obviously I've got stories coming out of my ears, but it'd be interesting to see what sort of like other people can do out there. You know, they might read, say, for example, the first or second or third, fourth, whatever volume, and go, "Oh, I really like that little being that you had on panel 3, and I thought that he was, I don't know, fishing one day, and that he couldn't catch a fish, so he had to go back and he was fishless, and then his son could get, I don't know, whatever." And then I could just be like, "Okay, that's great. Like, just, you know, maybe sort of, you know, write it out and we can see how we go with it." That's what's interesting as well, is that, you know, I'd love other people to sort of get
involved. Yeah.
But obviously, it's still early for us anyway from releasing the graphic novel. So, you know, we don't have a huge following yet, but, you know, we obviously hope in a year or so that
you'll build up. So one of the things that I was curious about, I mean, obviously you're the writer, you know, you got that whole writing thing down pat. But how do you go from that to working with artists, working with other people that need to be involved to create a graphic novel? Like,
with a massive headache.
Like, how did you even connect with these people? How did you, like, you know?
So with Roy, with Monument, I think I was like Googling, trying to find a comic artist or something, and then I found a website called Hire an Illustrator.
Okay.
And even the guy that I can't remember his name, but he runs the website. I remember just doing a contact us or something like that. And I was just like, "I'm really new. I have no idea what I'm doing. I've got a script. I need someone to sort of illustrate it. I don't know anything about what this is going to cost me. I don't know anything about like contracts and stuff, blah, blah, blah." It was just, I had no idea. And luckily he was really helpful. He just sort of like said, "Well, you know, different people have different price ranges depending on mainly like how much work they put into it." And I go, "Okay, that's understandable." So through Hire an Illustrator, I met Roy. And as I said, Roy was a dream to work with. With the Robustatrons, though, because it was a completely different style, it needed this sort of modern look to it, this sort of gloss look to it, feel, because we wanted to appeal to all different ages, whereas Monument's got this gritty paper feel to it, like even just holding the book. So I just sort of scoured 50 million Facebook groups and Deviant Art and Behance and
where all the artists hang out, basically.
Everything. I mean, like, I wanted to stay away from things like Fiverr. Not because it's a bad website at all. I think it's, for what it does, it's great. But I just didn't want to get into that whole what's the word? Like it.
Like where it's like
structurey, sort of like, this is the quote, this is when the delivery time is. It was just, I knew it couldn't be that project because it was too big of a project. So funnily enough, I found like the formatter, I found off Fiverr, and she was fantastic, and she converted everything so we could do it in print form. But the illustrators, was just Facebook groups, mainly, I think. And one thing that I've learned there about Facebook groups is there's a lot of horrible people out there.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I might post an ad saying, looking for artists, or looking for inker, say, for example, or colorist, looking for colorist. Big project, can't really say too much about it because wheels are turning, and I'd rather sort of like discuss it one-on-one. can you DM me your rate and some examples of your work? It was very like that. And then you just get these 50 million comments like, oh, this is a scam.
Oh no.
He hasn't got a real profile. He doesn't know what he's like talking about. He's not going to pay you. But I was like, all I did was like see what's out there.
That's
It was
funny.
mental. It was just, I was like, I thought the whole point of these Facebook groups was to like help people. Like,
Help people engage and like, yeah.
yeah.
Oh man.
So there was
People
a
are
lot
just
of
too
that.
cynical, I think, you know, a bit jaded. I don't know. Maybe, I
No,
don't know.
but the funny thing is that I completely understand that. I mean, I've been burned a lot in the past, and I know that
Mhm.
artists have.
Well,
And so,
artists are like the biggest victim out there. Like they are,
oh,
there's a reason they're called starving artists.
it's 100% true. Like, because even one person he was great, and he was like saying something like, I'll get paid up front for all 24 pages or something, or I'm not doing it. And I
Mhm.
was like, well, even from my point of view, though, that like I
That's
could get, yeah,
yeah, it's too dangerous for you. Yeah.
exactly. So it's like at least we go half and half, like 50-50 sort of thing, and which
Mhm.
I have done with some of the artists, and I respect that. It's a 50 up
Mhm.
front or 50 in the end. Or some people have, we've said after 10 pages, then they get paid, and then because then they know that I can't release like half a book as well, so, or like half an issue. So
Mhm.
anyway, so everyone had like this different structure. But funnily enough, like now that we're on series 2, the artists that I'm working with, like I've just said to them, oh, can our deal be I just pay you after the work? So you submit the work after we've completed it, and then they go, yeah, it's fine, because then they know that they can trust me,
They can trust you to pay. Yeah. Yeah.
and you've got that relationship, and it's all fine. But I completely understand that artists, are weary, because there's so many people out there that,
And typically, just for people that like are in the similar boat where they are writers but not illustrators or artists, what kind of costs per page are you looking at, like to create a
um,
comic page?
what, as a writer, or like
It
charge.
just says like since you're the one that's financing all this, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like typically, what is the cost involved with creating a page?
In all honesty, like the prices that people have come back with vary so much. Like I remember someone saying to me that they charge $450 per page. And I was
Okay.
like, I can't afford that. Sorry. I
Yeah.
mean, $450 per page, Jesus.
Mhm.
And then you get some people that will. I, I think it's to do probably with more where they're based, and
Yeah.
probably
Yeah. If
cost.
they're based in North America, obviously it's going to be more expensive than somebody in the
Yeah,
middle of nowhere.
exactly. Yeah, but the one good thing about the way that the world works now, I mean, you couldn't have done this 20 years ago, for example, is like Rom, who has kind of taken over to be like the lead artist, if you will, or like Inca
Mhm.
Peninsula, based in Brazil. Absolutely incredible artist,
Yeah,
absolutely
I
incredible.
thought the artwork was good, by the way. I just wanted
Oh,
to say.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, funnily enough, the prologue was done by Mika, who is North American based. Uh,
Okay. Oh,
so, but no, he's all great. He's all fine. But because obviously the size of the project, like we were saying, I can't remember if we were saying it backstage or not, but because of the size of the project, I had to use lots of different artists for different
yes.
issues on this one. Whereas we're hoping not to do that for the second series,
Mhm.
um, and make it more of a linear process. But yeah, honestly, the rates vary all different much. I mean, even a colorist has said to me $100 per page before, or a colorist has come back and said $5 per page before, and
Wow.
it's
It's like that's like day and night, but yeah, it's very different.
exactly. I think that it's a balancing game. It's kind of like, if I get to the stage where I want to like create, I don't know, the mega book or something,
Mhm.
I'd be quite happy to spend $400 on a cover artist, because you know that it's going to look like an oil painting, and you
Mhm.
have to warrant that in terms of what you're going to get back from selling that one whoop-de-doo book, and
Mhm.
it's just going to be a beautiful collector's item. And we're obviously not there yet. I mean, because of the structure of the story and it being so big, and
Mhm.
our finances being so small, we've got to
Mhm.
just have that balancing act. So I think that
Mhm.
that's the key thing, is like you just got to look at the project and sort of see how
Yeah.
it's worked for that.
I mean, I'm just amazed by, like, in a way, you kind of did it wrong. Like, I'm not going to complain too much about you, but because you created this massive book. I mean, it is massive. Like, just what I've seen from it. Um, but you did it all at once without actually having sold anything yet, or like where there's no income coming in to finance all this, and that's a big risk on your part.
Oh
Um,
yeah, it was. Yeah, I wouldn't do it. I won't do it again. I'll tell you that for nothing.
so yeah,
I
so
think I don't know me. I won't get too philosophical just yet. But for
mhm,
me personally, like I feel like so this story, for example, I've
mhm.
had in my drawer or I've been working on for about 24 years.
Oh, okay, so
So it was like I just never knew how whether it should be prose or whatever, or because of my love of graphic novels grew. It was just perfect fit for it. So what
mhm,
kind of happened was I kind of felt like it's quite weird this, but I always feel like I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. And so
mhm.
I'm one of those people that
You want to get it out before something bad happens.
before I get hit by the bus,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just kind of like a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I can't remember now, when we started converting it into a graphic novel, I had the time and the resources to be able to sort of like do it, and I just felt like it was the right time. And so
Mhm,
and now we've got it out there into the audiences and we're getting really good response.
mhm,
um there's sort of like the train, we don't want to stop the train, we want to keep it going. So it felt like it was a massive roll of the dice, but it feels as if
mhm.
it's going to work. So I'm glad I didn't. I don't think I'll ever do that again. But yeah.
So I was curious, have you ever thought of doing like something like a Kickstarter or things to self-finance the projects, or?
So yeah, so that's what we're doing with series two, actually, funnily enough, with Kickstarter. But I remember when I first looked into sort of creating a graphic novel back in 13, 14, something like that. I remember speaking with someone about Kickstarter, but using it more of a selling platform.
Yeah, well,
That
that's how it's sort of, that's what you do. You say, oh, there's the tiers. One is donate, one is you get a book. But really you're selling at that
yeah,
point,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then there's the different covers and, oh, signed extra five, like all these different tiers, right? But
Yeah,
it basically finances the book, and you don't have to actually produce anything until you get the mark that you set. Um,
that's it. So like the way that I sort of saw it, if in a really boring business point of view, was that using First Light to cover the costs of what we put into that, but then also through the profit of it to warrant going on to Ancient Prophecies, which is series two. And with
mhm.
Kickstarter, we can now offer books as part of the rewards to enable to finance and recoup at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it was kind of like a massive financial gamble, but like I feel as if like it can work. Funnily enough, we just got to figure out how to work Kickstarter more than anything. So it's just like, and all these different avenues now of selling, like TikTok or whatnot, and uh,
Mm.
Amazon. We've literally only just put things up on, which takes a huge percentage. So it's like working out every single margin, all these different fees. I mean, it's not like you just go to a comic book shop anymore. It's just 50 million different ways of selling,
Mhm.
which
Yeah,
is
it's so
good,
true.
but it's also a nightmare from a seller's point of view.
Yeah, yeah. So, have you put it on things like Amazon or like different stores to help sell the book, or?
Yeah, so Amazon, because we have uh like them physically printed, like we
Mhm.
didn't want to do the print on demand situation and actually have us selling them from like, I don't know, HQ or whatever you want to call it, when really
Mm.
it's just my friend's house. But like we've set up the Amazon stores now. Digitally you can buy each individual issue,
Okay.
but we recommend the physical copy because it's
Yeah, it's tangible.
cheaper. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, because it's funny, like I said about Court of Owls, and I bought it digitally, and I don't have not like I'm really annoyed at myself because I was that guy who was new to it and didn't understand, like, proper
Mhm.
novel reading or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But so I did that, and then obviously you forget that, I don't know. the app disappeared or you changed iPads or something, and then
And
it's
then
just
you
gone
never read
forever.
it again.
Yeah, and so I had to buy all the novels again. So now I've got the complete series of Court of Owls, which I've already paid for digitally, and now I've rebought it again in physical form. And I'm just like, well, you could have
What
just
a
done that in the
waste.
first place.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm a big believer in physical copies, which it now can be bought off Amazon. We're still setting up so I think UK and US and Canada, I think, are okay. I'm not too sure yet because we haven't had any customers. It literally got approved 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
And then we're looking to open up the Amazon stores for the rest of the world. So it, at least there is a world marketplace that's tangible. But conventions we do quite well at, and well, especially in the UK and Whatnot, we've done pretty well at. The problem with the problem with Whatnot is that I think that a lot of people use it for sort of well-established IPs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why I was thinking when you said Whatnot, I was like, really? I was thinking it wouldn't do that well because people would be like, what is this? They don't, they wouldn't be familiar with it, right?
No, exactly. I think that the problem with it though is done well at the beginning, but then we have I see the same faces coming on all the time.
Okay.
It isn't a bad thing because they're great, but you
want to expand the audience, right?
I can't sell the same book to the same person twice. Do you see what I mean? So it's that's the only thing is, and so obviously the majority of people go onto that for that. I just think that there's an avenue there to try and tap into those customers a bit more. We just haven't figured that out yet.
One thing I want to ask, just because there's the collector in me. I'm a collector. I got that collector's gene where, especially, I annoy people because people sort of always make fun of me because I always say, "Oh, that's a reprint," or that, I'm that kind of annoying geeky guy.
Oh yeah.
So did you when you printed it, did you have it as a print or a print run, where it's like a set number of issues, or did you do anything like that where that collector would say, "Oh, I got a first printing of blah blah blah,"
So we've got of volume 1, I've got 50 prints of the first. This is just a preview copy, so it's a bit damaged.
Okay.
But this is it's actually even got it on here. So the first 50, we put a message
one of 50 or whatever.
Yeah, the first ever 50 copies. So funnily enough, I accidentally held them back from a convention, so they're still in storage at the moment. So
okay,
we've got that, and then what happened was for MCM Comic-Con in October, not these exact ones, it was a different cover.
Okay.
And it was hardback. So where it says,
I'll make it big.
Where it says, do you see it says printed February 2024?
Yeah.
I printed 10 of these with a different cover, a different hardback cover.
Okay.
For MCM and Comic-Con, and we sold 9 of them, and they were the first edition ever printed of hardback copies. But we haven't sold the 10th.
Oh, okay.
And that, where it says printed February 2024, that one says printed October 2023 and is the first edition.
Oh, okay, cool.
So we've got one left of those.
Okay, I put my dibs on that. I'll actually buy it. Yeah, I'll buy it from you.
It's pricey, but you can have it.
Okay, well.
But it's what we realized that it was so funny as well, because that was my first big convention. When people were coming over and we were talking about the story and people were really into the story, and we had all 4 volumes ready for them and everything, and then I just said, "Oh well, we do have these limited editions. Do you want one?" And then they were like, "How many have you sold of those?" I said, "Well, none. So I'm the first one to ever buy it." And I was like, "Yeah, so I'll have it." Didn't even ask what the price was. I was like, "Okay, great." And then
that, as I said, there is the collector gene, and especially with the people that read comics all have that kind of oh, I want to be the one to have this book and nobody else has it. And there is that. It's fun.
I felt so bad for one kid. Like he was so, he said to me, like, I'm not, when it comes to that and when it comes to expenditure, I'm not that kind of sleazy guy that's like, come on, buy it. Because I respect people's financial situations of their own, and it's not up to me to decide whether this is, like, we all know graphic novels are a luxury item, okay, so that it's not, you know, we don't need it to survive, okay, to a certain degree, but like it's kind of, so this one kid who was like, oh, I don't know, and I just said to him, look, I'm not going to persuade you or anything like this. All I'm just going to say is that it is a first edition, so from your point of view, are you going to wake up in 10 years' time and regret buying it? And he just went, I'll buy it. And I went, okay, thank you very much.
That's cool.
Because there's just sort of like really sweet stories, and on our Instagram page, like we got photos with all the people that bought the limited edition, and yeah, and as you say, it's that sort of like, yeah, I've got this special one. So and the reason why I printed these new hardback copies, which is effectively the second
print, yeah.
Second print. There's only 5 of these though, whereas there was 10 of the other ones. Is that I just felt like at the previous convention, there was a few customers, well, I keep saying customers, I mean audience members, that like came over and were talking and were really into the story, and they didn't have any of these, but like you just felt like they would be really cool, like collectors. You know?
Yeah. That's always cool. So, okay, we should probably wrap up soon. Just quickly, where can people get your book? Where can they, you know, not my copy, you guys, I've already claimed it, guys. So, where can they buy other copies? The second prints, which I'll make fun of you for buying, but that's tricky. Where can people buy your books?
I think the easiest place for people to buy is the main website, because,
and I'll put the link in the description for all the people that are watching.
Yeah, go to the store. We are on Whatnot. We are literally just on Amazon. Sorry. So I just don't know, wherever you are, it depends on whether that store's operational.
Robustatrons.com or
yeah.
So,
yeah, www.robustatrons.com.
Yep. And we'll put that link in the description. I'll even link to your Whatnot if you give me the links. Send me all your stuff and I'll put it all, like, you know, it'll just be like this big long thing of all the places where you can access this book. So I'm definitely willing to do that for you.
Oh, lovely. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks again for coming on the show. You know, we can do this again when you launch your next book or series or whatever. Yeah, I'm just amazed by how much, like, normally people, like, when they do comics, like they think, oh, I have this big idea, and they do one comic. At the end of the day, that's all that gets released. And you've done it the other way around, where you release everything at once, this big massive thing, full world built, and it's kind of impressive. I am very impressed by you. So
that's very kind. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So thanks again. Bye everyone. Thanks for watching. Go check out his book, or that way. Go check out his book. Thanks again. Bye for now.